I'm so glad to be part of your journey into higher ed, out of higher ed, and where we can help you with all this. And then you helping young people, parents, grandparents, you know why we're going to do the journey into higher ed. But your story is very compelling. Your injury that you had last year, we'll get to all of that. But first, let's do the This Is Your Life.
Yeah.
You got some time here. Go right ahead. Please, you know, talk about your family, mention names, go right ahead. Take your time, get warmed up. Go ahead, Dallas.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the Detroit, Michigan area. Grew up initially in Detroit, moved to the suburbs like 5 minutes away. So they're literally back to back, Detroit and Southfield. Grew up an athlete, man. Football was first. I started playing football at 5, so that's kindergarten, and then all the way up to 5th grade. So about 10 years old, I think. Did the whole nationals, traveling all over the country for football. Went to Florida for nationals. Came up short. We got third place though, so that's better than nothing.
Right?
And then that was my last year after nationals. So transitioning to basketball between 6th through like 11th grade. So just being an athlete, man, and staying active, and that introverted personality stuck around, but I think the extroverted communication skills comes out of being an athlete and always being a leader on the team, or if not leading, then cooperating with others. So just learning how to communicate effectively and in order to get to that ultimate goal of winning, or if not winning, then learning the lesson from losing and then transitioning back into winning next time. So,
Let me ask you that question here because we don't want to skip over the family, but
right.
that ability and the fact that you did experience loss and
Mhm.
losing, how did that help shape you, and in what way did it?
You got to lose, man. You have to lose. It's a famous quote by one of my favorite artists. His name is Young Thug, but you have to lose because it teaches you adversity, and it teaches you how to get up from your lowest point and persevere and keep going. That's my thing. Like the sun is gonna come up every morning. It's not gonna stay down just because of a mindset that you're in, or like a circumstance you went through the day before. The sun is gonna come up whether you like it or not. So you got to figure out a way to get up the next day and keep pushing forward and keep that discipline in. So that's what it taught me, just to keep going. And I haven't into too many times where I was losing. I've been fortunate enough to be on a lot of winning teams, but everybody don't win every day. So
But start the journey. You're in high school, junior high. Where did you want to start this whole thing to help young people understand about your path? Because you've had a very unique journey to become the young superstar that you are. Go ahead, please,
yeah.
Dallas.
So high school was different for me. I went to a school of choice, as you would put it. That's what they call it back in my city at home, which was more so academic focused. Like you had to maintain a certain GPA, and then we didn't even have our own sports team. So we had to play for. So I went to university. I had to play for Southfield High School though. So it was like a brother sister relationship between the two schools, but it was a very small school university. We didn't even have 400 kids at the school. So very headstrong on education, taught me a lot of just pointers on discipline and how to stay organized and managing tough classes. I took a lot of AP courses in high school. But I knew for a fact that college was something that I wanted to do after high school. It just was about where. And 11th grade, I was actually a U of M guy growing up. Um, so that was a thing. And then I was blessed enough to get a scholarship to any HBCU of my choice, my senior year of high school. And I decided to do North Carolina A&T. But Michigan State, before receiving that scholarship, I had applied to state and I got into state, and I'm like, I'm going to state like a week, or maybe not even a week, a few days after I got the call saying you can go to any HBCU of your choice. So that's how the North Carolina stuff came into part.
Gotcha.
Went down there, and that was an interesting experience as well. I didn't, well, me and Varian, who you know really well, we both went down there as a package deal. I grew up with him. But I didn't like the culture down there. I'm a fast paced guy. I come from a fast paced city, so North Carolina just wasn't it. So we came back here.
The juxtaposition between going to Michigan State and then going to North that see you're a senior in high school and you're having to make these life decisions already. So go ahead. That had to be challenging.
Yeah, especially because it was out. I mean, 13 hours from home. So it was a decision that I wanted to make because I wanted to be uncomfortable, and he did too. So that's why we both decided to go. But also, I wanted to get away from home just so I could experience life by myself. So it was a process moving down there. Once we got down there, the first couple of weeks was cool, but as time went on, we get through the whole freshman stuff, the partying and doing the stuff that in hindsight really doesn't matter, but it's a part of the college experience. But the city that North Carolina A&T is in is like a very slow country, southern city, not much to do. It was about an hour and a half from Charlotte, which is like the main city in North Carolina. So I really just, it wasn't for me. And I was able to realize that like the end of my first semester there. And then second semester was really like a reset for me. And I had to sit back and kind of redirect where I wanted to take my life. And that's why I ended up, making a decision. Let me just go ahead and transfer back home. I'll be in a more comfortable environment, but I'll also be away from home where I can find myself being uncomfortable and still grow at the same time.
What tipped the scale for the Spartans for you, Dallas?
If I'm being honest with you, it really was because it was close to home, but it was also a big enough school for me to be like, okay, I can go here and I can network with I mean, it's 50,000 kids that go here. I can network with people, I can meet people, and I can have a home away from home. I knew I didn't want to go to U of M because they're more, I would say, I was in the scholarship program in middle school because I wanted to go there, but then I realized U of M really isn't my speed. They're a little more headstrong on like the academic side. Not that I'm not, but I feel like Michigan State has a mix of academics and then social, the mix of both. So that's what I wanted for myself.
Balance.
Yeah, that social balance. Thank you,
What
man.
are some of the tips that you have coming into the university at your level for making you successful? What are some of the things that you would like people to, if you could look back on your younger self right now and you could say, "Hey, young Dallas, come here. Let me talk to you here and let me give you some advice because this is don't do this, but do this, do this, do this." What are some of those tips? Because that's why, I love having you guys on. Go right ahead, please.
So when it comes to school, my biggest thing is staying organized. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday when it comes to writing stuff down. Because I mean, you can keep a reminder in your head, but that reminder go right out if you don't have it written down somewhere. So I keep a planner and I try to write down assignment due dates and then get ahead of those due dates as much as I can. That way I have leisure time for myself to do things like, design or go to the gym or go play basketball. But I think being organized and staying ahead plays a big role in my success when it comes to school, just because it takes that mental load off of you. You don't have to go through the stressing and the worrying and the trying to cram things in and study the night before a quiz and then using your resources. I think a lot of time people don't want to ask for help because they might feel like it's something wrong with being tutored or it's the ego, man. The ego has to be pulled out like we talk about all the time. But those two things combining is an equation for success, in my opinion.
Talk about the gamer side of Dallas, the tech guy side of Dallas,
Yeah.
and the entrepreneurial side of Dallas, all of those things that fit together. How do you do this and still maintain a 4.0?
Yeah. So I grew up playing a lot of video games, man. I used to literally sit on the game for hours at a time. And this is not the most healthy thing. I'm not recommending this for anybody, but I think it builds character and it taught me how to maneuver around a computer. I even built my own computer at like 13. So very tech savvy. And I think that kind of transitioned over to staying disciplined and being on top of things and trying to stay organized because I mean on the computer, you know how easily things can be crammed up.
Oh
So
yeah.
staying organized and then if we transition over to the business side, so I didn't start my own business until like college. Like my freshman year of college. I knew I wanted to have a business exiting high school, but I didn't know what. And I'm still kind of in the process of figuring out what's for me because I mean, like you said, refinement. You transition to things all the time, but I knew that I had to find a passion in something, and whatever came easiest to me, just like technology and computers, is what I want to pursue. So hence my major, information science, tech, and then the business side, close. Both of those things come easy to me.
Now you mentioned earlier Dallas Sims is our guest today, everybody, the young superstar journey into higher ed. You mentioned earlier, and I want to just touch on this for a second about the AP courses that you took in high school.
Mhm.
How influential, how impactful was that for you in your higher ed and in college and your college journey? How much did that help you?
A ton, man. I would go on record to say that AP courses, the workload from there are heavier than most college courses that I've taken at North Carolina and at Michigan State. So I think it prepared me because I would go home in high school and be spending 3 hours just on one homework assignment, taking notes from a textbook. And then we'll go the next day in class and have a quiz for those notes. So prepare me to learn how to take diligent notes, but also how to manage a heavy workload. I get to college, I'm like, this is nothing. So I'm I'm getting through these classes like it's nothing.
Dallas, how would you like people to contact you? What's the story? I mean, what would you like to
Yeah.
promote? How do you want people to connect with you? Go ahead, please.
Absolutely. So you guys can follow or you can find me on Instagram. The brand page is Confidential Closet. So if you just type in confidential, it'll be the first thing that come up. And then the brand email is just brandconfidential@gmail.com.
Let's finish the rest of the episode talking about your entrepreneurial side of things and the clothing line and what your vision is, the branding of it. Talk about it. Talk about your passion, finding your passion with the clothing brand. Why apparel? Why did you want to go into the whole thing? What started this whole dream of yours, and what do you want to share with some of the listeners out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up from a very young age, I was a sneakerhead, huge sneaker guy. Probably got like 20, 30 pair of shoes. In my apartment, I don't even have all of them here. Once I got to a point where I'm like, all right, I got enough shoes. Then the clothing obsession became a thing. And it's like styling pieces and getting out different pieces in my closet and putting stuff together. I was the friend that everybody calls, and I still am, where they like, should I put this with this or how does this look? So at that point, I knew I had something. I knew I had an eye. That second semester at A&T, my freshman year, I wasn't going outside. I was in the house being a homebody. But I knew like I needed to make something happen. For one, I didn't want to be in college. Like I didn't want to live a typical college lifestyle. I wanted to create something that was personalized for myself. And I think I'm always trying to go with what comes easiest to me because I feel like my output will be impeccable. So um, I had that computer and I downloaded Photoshop and I just started working at it, man. I started working at it, and I came up with the name Confidential because it was an embodiment of myself and the introvert. And I'm trying to keep things private, but I still express myself through my personalized ways. In this case, it was clothing.
Dallas Sims is the bomb. Loved him so much. I wish I wouldn't have technical difficulties with my computers, but that's the way it goes sometimes, and we roll on. So in the meantime, thank you so much for listening, doing what we do, and moving forward with life. All right. Tom Matt Show is a production of What We Do here, Boomers Rock Media. Thank you so much for joining us. Please support our sponsors. Peace out. Love y'all.